Have you ever been hurt by a woman deeply enough to ask a question that feels almost forbidden to say out loud? Not in a dramatic, theatrical way, in a quieter way. A betrayal you did not expect. A coldness that felt deliberate. A kind smile with something sharp behind it. A friendship that slowly turned competitive. A mother whose love came with control. A sister who knew exactly where to wound. A daughter whose distance felt more punishing than honest, and maybe you have felt the discomfort of that question in yourself too. Are women evil? It is a hard question, but no one really talks about it honestly, because people usually rush to one of two extremes. They either answer too quickly with accusation, or they deny too quickly, as if women are incapable of cruelty, envy, manipulation, or emotional harm. But life is not that simple. The wiser answer is this: women are not evil as a class. Women are human. And human beings, when shaped by fear, humiliation, hunger for love, shame, competition, neglect, or unhealed pain, can become complicated in ways that are sometimes deeply damaging. That does not excuse harm, but it does explain why goodness can become distorted. Simone de Beauvoir's famous line, "One is not born but rather becomes a woman," points to the fact that womanhood is shaped by social expectations and conditioning, not just personality alone. That matters more than it first seems. Because many women were not raised to express power directly. They were often taught to preserve harmony, stay desirable, stay agreeable, stay needed, stay chosen, stay emotionally useful. And when direct power feels unavailable, people sometimes learn indirect power instead. Silence, withdrawal, guilt, social exclusion, emotional withholding, character damage hidden inside politeness. This does not make women uniquely dark. It makes them human inside systems where open anger, open ambition, and open need were often discouraged or punished. Virginia Woolf once wrote, "I would venture to guess that a nun who wrote so many poems without signing them was often a woman." Beneath that line is a larger truth. For much of history, women were present, influential, burdened, and shaping life, often without full voice recognition or freedom. When a person lives too long without honest room for power, truth, grief, or individuality, those forces do not disappear. They often go underground. And maybe this is where the real conversation begins. Because what many people call evil in women is sometimes something darker and sadder at the same time. Unprocessed pain with nowhere clean to go. A woman who never felt chosen may become quietly competitive with other women. A woman who was loved only when useful may become controlling in the name of care. A woman who was never safe enough to speak honestly may learn to wound sideways instead of directly. A woman who built her identity on sacrifice may resent any other woman who chooses freedom sooner than she did. This does not make the behavior harmless. It simply makes it intelligible. There is a quiet truth mature women often discover later in life. Not all female cruelty looks cruel at first. Sometimes it looks like concern, advice, helpfulness, loyalty, maternal worry, moral superiority. I'm only saying this for your own good. You've changed. I just don't want you to get hurt. After all I've done for you. The words may sound caring. The energy may still be invasive, punishing, competitive, or controlling. That is why emotionally mature women often stop listening only to the sentence and start listening to the emotional effect. Do you feel steadier after being with this person? Or smaller? Do you feel seen? Or subtly corrected? Do you feel loved? Or managed? Do you feel free? Or watched? That is one technique I want to give you early in this conversation. Stop asking only whether a woman in your life looks kind. Ask what her energy consistently does to your inner world. Kindness that leaves you ashamed of your own reality is not kindness. Concern that makes you doubt yourself every time is not care. Closeness that requires your shrinking is not love. This becomes especially important in family life, where women often hurt each other inside roles that the world automatically calls loving. A mother may not hate her daughter and still compete with her youth, freedom, or emotional honesty. A daughter may not hate her mother and still punish her for years of unspoken hurt. A sister may not hate her sister and still carry envy that leaks out as mockery, exclusion, or coldness. A female friend may not consciously want to destroy another woman and still feel threatened when that woman becomes more confident, more peaceful, more loved, or less available for emotional dependency. And because these dynamics are wrapped in family, history, womanhood, and expectation, They often go unnamed for years. Many mature women know exactly what this feels like. They know what it is to sit at a family table and feel the sharpness under the surface. They know what it is to be praised and diminished in the same breath. They know what it is to be needed by another woman who does not actually know how to be happy for them. They know what it is to feel lonely not only with men, but also in female relationships that were supposed to feel safe. But no one really talks about how painful that is, because women are often told they should naturally understand one another, naturally protect one another, naturally nurture one another. And many do. But sometimes women also become the keepers of old wounds, old roles, old resentments, and old emotional economies. Sometimes they carry the family's silence. Sometimes they enforce it. Sometimes they know exactly where another woman is most tender, because they have lived there too. That is why the deeper question is not, are women evil? The deeper question is, what happens to tenderness when it grows up inside fear, comparison, neglect, and emotional scarcity? Sometimes it becomes wisdom. Sometimes it becomes compassion. And sometimes, if it is never examined, it becomes strategy. A woman who feels invisible may begin controlling the room through mood. A woman who feels powerless may control through guilt. A woman who feels left behind may punish joy in others. A woman who cannot admit her own grief may become strangely cold toward vulnerability in someone else. A woman who never gave herself permission to want more may quietly resent the woman who finally does. These things happen every day, especially in midlife and later life, when regret and identity begin pressing harder on the heart. After 50, many women are no longer only living in the present, they are also living with memory. Memory of what they sacrificed, whom they chose, what they tolerated, what they postponed, what they never received, what they never became. And if that life review happens without honesty or self-compassion, it can harden a woman in ways other people feel before they understand. That hardening can show up as judgment, as bitterness disguised as wisdom, as control disguised as love, as exclusion disguised as standards, as punishment disguised as distance. And maybe you have seen this. Maybe you have even had to admit painfully that you have felt traces of it in yourself too, not because you are evil, because you are human enough to be shaped by what you did not heal. That is another quiet truth worth saying gently. Women can do real harm without being monsters. Sometimes they are acting from old survival patterns that once protected them, gave them status, or helped them avoid humiliation. The pattern may be ugly. The wound beneath it may still be real, and this is where instinct matters. One of the clearest ways to sharpen your instinct around female harm is to stop being hypnotized by surface softness. Watch for repetition. Watch who becomes uneasy when you become clearer. Watch who only feels close to you when you are struggling, dependent, or uncertain. Watch who withdraws warmth when you stop playing the old role. Watch who can tolerate your pain but not your growth. Patterns tell the truth more quietly than speeches do. If a woman in your life consistently leaves you feeling guilty, indebted, watched, corrected, or emotionally smaller, do not ignore that because she smiles well, helps publicly, or uses the language of care. Energy repeated over time is more honest than occasional niceness. This is also why women who have lived a lot of life often become more discerning with female relationships, not less loving. They are no longer impressed by automatic sisterhood. They look for emotional safety. They look for generosity without competition. They look for truth without punishment. They look for women who do not need them to stay small in order to feel secure. That kind of discernment is not cruelty. It is maturity. And if this resonates with you, you are not alone. Many women have carried private confusion for years because they were hurt by another woman and did not know how to name it without sounding disloyal, harsh, or anti-woman. But honest naming matters. Not to shame women, not to condemn women, but to understand the shadow honestly enough that it no longer rules relationships from underneath. We need to go deeper into something even more uncomfortable. Why women sometimes become most dangerous to one another in places where love, identity, aging, motherhood, beauty, regret, and belonging all quietly collide. You can share your thoughts in the comments if this stirred something real in you. Sometimes the first healing is simply hearing a difficult truth spoken without denial and without hatred. And if you enjoy this kind of calm, psychologically honest reflection, you may consider subscribing. There is something powerful about making room for the truths women often feel, but rarely say aloud. And this is where the conversation becomes even more delicate. Because if we are honest, women do not usually become most wounding to one another in random places. It often happens in the places charged with meaning, in the places where identity is fragile, in the places where love and comparison sit too close together, in the places where a woman is already carrying old grief, old hunger, or old disappointment, and another woman unknowingly touches it just by existing. That is why female harm can feel so confusing. It is rarely just about one comment, one look, one act of exclusion, one cold silence, one criticism, one controlling gesture. Very often it is about what that moment awakens. A daughter's freedom may awaken a mother's buried regret. A younger woman's confidence may awaken an older woman's grief about the self she never got to become. A sister's happiness may awaken another sister's loneliness. A friend's peace may awaken pain in the woman who built her identity around struggle and sacrifice, and maybe you have seen this too. Not as cartoon villainy, not as obvious wickedness, but as something sadder, more intimate, more painful. A tightening in the room, a warmth that cools the moment one woman begins to shine. A closeness that becomes strained when one woman becomes less dependent, less apologetic, less available for old emotional arrangements. This is one of the quietest truths about human behavior. People do not only react to who you are, they react to what you awaken in them. That includes women, especially women who were taught, often without realizing it, to build their value around being needed, chosen, self-sacrificing, youthful, beautiful, useful, emotionally indispensable, or morally superior. When that identity is threatened, some women do not know how to grieve it honestly. They defend it indirectly, through criticism, through guilt, through distance, through comparison, through subtle punishment, through making another woman feel too much, too selfish, too naive, too proud, too emotional, too different. Not because that other woman is wrong, but because she has stepped on a hidden wound. Anais Nin wrote, "We do not see things as they are, we see them as we are." That line says something important here. A woman does not always respond to another woman from truth. Sometimes she responds from fear, from memory, from humiliation she never healed, from sacrifices she still needs someone to justify, from roles she is terrified to lose. And that is why one of the deepest forms of instinct is not just noticing behavior. It is noticing what kind of inner world that behavior comes from. For example, a mother may become especially difficult when her daughter becomes more emotionally honest than she was ever allowed to be. Not because honesty is wrong, because it exposes the life she had to survive by silence. A friend may become colder when you stop over-explaining yourself, not because your boundary is cruel, but because your change removes the access she once had. An older woman may become sharp toward younger women who move more freely in the world, not because freedom is offensive, but because ungrieved regret can turn another person's ease into a private mirror. This is where aging enters the conversation in a powerful way. As women grow older, they are not only aging in body, they are aging in identity. That can be a beautiful thing when it brings depth, softness, discernment, and self-respect. But if a woman has spent decades building her worth on being admired, needed, central, or emotionally irreplaceable,
aging can also stir panic she does not know how to name. No one tells many women how disorienting it can feel to become less visibly centered in the world. Children grow up.
men change, parents die, friendships shift, beauty changes, energy changes, roles change. The family no longer needs the same version of you. The world does not reflect you back in quite the same way. For some women, this becomes wisdom. For others, it becomes bitterness they do not know how to process, and bitterness rarely introduces itself honestly. It often arrives dressed as standards, advice, disappointment, realism, or just telling the truth. It is a quiet truth. Sometimes what sounds like moral clarity is actually injured identity. Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." That matters here, because women who harm are often given endless reinterpretation. She means well. She's just tired. That's just how mothers are. She had a hard life. She's from a different generation. Sometimes those things are true. But pain explained is not the same as pain excused. If someone repeatedly leaves you diminished, guilty, confused, indebted, or emotionally unsafe, you do not need a cruel verdict about them. But you do need clarity. That is one of the most important techniques for sharpening instinct in female relationships. Stop asking whether you can explain her behavior kindly, and start asking whether the pattern is healthy for your soul. That question changes everything. Because many women stay trapped in harmful dynamics not because they do not see them, but because they are too busy being fair to the other person to be faithful to themselves. And fairness matters. Compassion matters. Understanding matters. But self-betrayal is not compassion. This becomes especially painful in mother-daughter relationships. A daughter may spend years thinking, maybe she loved me the only way she knew how. And that may be true. But another truth may also be present: the love still hurt. The closeness still controlled. The concern still invaded. The bond still carried competition, shame, or emotional pressure. Both things can exist together. A mother can love deeply and still wound deeply. A daughter can understand and still need distance. Mature healing often begins when a woman stops forcing herself to choose between those truths. The same is true in friendships between women. Some female friendships are among the safest, deepest, and most life-giving relationships a woman will ever have. But some are built on older emotional contracts. One woman plays the stronger one. One plays the wounded one. One plays the admired one. One plays the rescuer. One plays the listener. One plays the smaller one. And when those roles begin to change, the friendship can become tense very quickly, not because love was false, but because the structure was fragile. Woman who has always been the advisor may become irritated when her friend stops needing guidance. A woman who always felt less than may become cold when her friend becomes visibly happy. A woman who built intimacy through shared pain may not know how to stay connected when the other begins healing. But no one really talks about how some relationships survive suffering more easily than they survive growth. And that is where mature discernment becomes a form of mercy, not coldness, not superiority. Mercy. Because when you see clearly, you stop demanding from people what they are unable or unwilling to give. You stop handing your softest self to those who handle softness as leverage. You stop calling every female bond sacred just because it is female. You stop confusing shared gender with shared safety. You stop idealizing womanhood so much that you cannot acknowledge its shadow. And strangely, that honesty can lead to more love, not less. Because when you stop romanticizing women, you can finally meet women as human beings, not saints, not enemies, not mystical creatures who naturally nurture, not victims incapable of harm, human beings, capable of extraordinary tenderness, capable of extraordinary cruelty, capable of both in the same lifetime, sometimes in the same relationship. The goal then is not to condemn women. It is to understand the shadow honestly enough that it can be interrupted. That begins with self-reflection. A mature woman might ask herself, where do I become sharp when I feel unseen? Where do I withhold warmth when I feel threatened? Where do I compare instead of bless? Where do I disguise control as care? Where do I become moral when I am actually hurt? Where do I punish truth because it unsettles the life I built around avoidance? Those are not accusations. They are openings. Because the most dangerous shadow is the one a person insists they do not have. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That applies here beautifully. What some women call instinct is sometimes unhealed fear. What some call concern is sometimes control. What some call standards is sometimes insecurity. What some call closeness is sometimes possession. But once those patterns become conscious, a different life becomes possible. And that is where the conversation softens. Because the answer to, are women evil, is not yes. The deeper answer is this. Women, like all human beings, can become dangerous when pain hardens into identity, when wounds turn into methods, when scarcity distorts love, and when honesty is replaced by emotional strategy. But women can also become astonishingly wise. They can become women who break the pattern, women who do not compete with what is beautiful in others, women who do not punish honesty, women who can bless another woman's freedom without feeling erased by it, women who can love daughters without possessing them, women who can age without turning younger women into enemies, women who can feel regret without making it another woman's burden, women who can face their shadow without letting it lead, That kind of woman changes rooms. She makes other women breathe easier. She does not make closeness feel costly. She does not need to stay above, ahead, needed, or emotionally central to feel secure. She knows that power without tenderness becomes cold, and tenderness without honesty becomes dangerous. If this resonates with you, you are not alone. Many women have spent years quietly untangling hurt they received from other women, and even more quietly untangling the hurt they themselves may have passed on without meaning to. You can share your thoughts in the comments if you want to. These conversations matter because they make room for truth without turning truth into hatred. And if you enjoy this kind of reflective, emotionally honest content, you may consider subscribing. There is something healing about speaking clearly about the inner realities many people live but rarely name. So maybe the real question was never, are women evil? Maybe the real question is, what happens to the human heart when love is mixed with scarcity, powerlessness, comparison, and pain? Sometimes the answer is shadow. And sometimes if a woman is brave enough to look honestly within, the answer becomes wisdom.